Welcome, everyone, to the 2023 Energy Tech University Prize Explore Southern California regional event. My name is Anna Lynn, and I'm a second-year student at UC San Diego studying cognitive science with a specialization in design and interaction. I'll be your MC for today's event. This event is co-hosted by UC San Diego and Clean Tech San Diego. So I'd like to welcome Paul Rowan, Associate Vice Chancellor for Innovation and Commercialization at UC San Diego.
Hello, I'm trying to start my video, but it won't allow me to do that. There we go. Hello. So thank you very much, Anna. I appreciate the introduction. And first of all, welcome to everybody. I'm delighted everybody was able to join us today, and thank you for coming. I'm really delighted that UCSD is able to co-host this particular event alongside our partners, Clean Tech San Diego. This is really a terrific event. As the AVC for Innovation at UC San Diego, my job is to help to develop both the innovation workforce of the future and the technologies that are going to drive the future. And this event really speaks to both of those, both the talent and the technology, right? As we're driving talent technologies, the experience that these teams are getting is helping to drive the talent as well. So it's a wonderful event, and I'd like to thank the DOE for really driving this for us. I'd also like to thank, of course, my group here at UCSD, particularly Christine, who's put so much work into this. The other things about this event that I really love is that we're bringing a whole bunch of universities together. That doesn't happen very often, and it can only be a positive thing when it does. And we're bringing them together with the community, particularly our partners, Clean Tech San Diego. So this is a terrific event. I'd like to thank the teams for participating, and good luck today. And last but certainly not least, and maybe most of all, I want to thank our judges who have given so much time to this and who are going to give their evening today to help judge the event. We have 4 terrific judges today. We have Mark Jurgensen, the Managing Director of Clean Tech Energy, Inc., Jackie Hanberg, Head of Commercial Services at Natural Power, Christian Griffin, Vice President of Solar and Storage Product Management at EDF Renewables, and Eric Stokes, Deputy Director of Energy Research and Development Division at CEC, California Energy Commission. So thank you to all of you for your participation as well. We couldn't do any of this without you. Lastly, and absolutely definitely not least, it's my honor to introduce Marty Turok, who is the Executive Director of the Southern California Energy Innovation Network at Clean Tech San Diego. It's really his drive and energy that has helped us to put this on today, and it's always a pleasure to have an excuse to work with you, Marty. So thank you for everything you do as well, and I'll throw it over to you.
Well, thank you, Paul, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm just delighted to be here today representing Clean Tech San Diego, our Southern California Energy Innovation Network, and the California Energy Commission's entrepreneurial ecosystem as co-regional convener with UC San Diego for this 2023 Southern California Explore event. Next slide, please. And first off, I'd like to offer my congratulations to the university teams, not just for being selected to participate in this DOE National Energy Tech University Prize event, but because you are clearly amongst the best and the brightest of America's university students. And how do I know that? Well, because the fact that you're presenting a business plan for a breakthrough energy technology demonstrates that you already recognize that the energy industry is undergoing a major transformation driven by decarbonization, decentralization, and digitization. And with virtually all of the world's major cities, countries, and corporations committed to achieving zero net carbon climate action plans and ESG goals by mid-century, this energy arena is clearly one of the best places to grow your career over the next 30 plus years. And to build on the DOE's key objectives for this event, my opening remarks today are going to focus on raising your awareness to all of the technical, business, and financial resources that are available to help energy startups in California accelerate their pathway from campus to commerce. Next slide. Clean Tech San Diego, our parent organization, was founded in 2007 with the mission of accelerating the adoption of best practices in sustainability to speed our transition to an equitable clean energy economy. And while we celebrated our 15th anniversary in the middle of last year, we don't take credit for growing the economic impact of the San Diego clean tech industry to $8.8 billion, but we are the center of gravity and the convener of public-private partnerships that have played a key role in facilitating this growth. And just to put things in perspective, the 39,000 plus clean tech jobs just across the San Diego region represent almost as many jobs that are left in the entire United States coal industry. Next slide. Another reason that California is a great place to launch a clean tech business is that back in 2006, California passed Assembly Bill 32 that was the first law in the United States that mandated greenhouse gas reduction to address climate change. And since that time, you can see that additional legislation has been passed that mandates the adoption of 100% renewable energy, energy efficiency programs that drive zero net energy, energy storage that provides resiliency, and transportation electrification, which addresses California's #1 source of GHG emissions. And even with the most stringent climate and clean energy codes and policies in the United States, pre-COVID-19, California's 5th largest economy in the world had achieved an average 3.8% GDP growth for the previous 5 years, clearly demonstrating that green growth is not only possible, but it is profitable. And just this year, California surpassed Germany as the 4th largest economy in the world, with Tesla EVs being amongst the state's top exports. Next slide, please. And if we flash back to the 2016 timeframe, the state completed an analysis where they extrapolated California's adoption rates of energy efficiency, renewables, and electric vehicles. And despite California's national leadership in these areas, where in fact almost 50% of the 2.5 million EVs on the road today in the United States are in California, they still identified a significant gap to the achievement of the state's 2030 greenhouse gas reduction targets. So it was clear that a business as usual approach was not going to work. So they allocated $60 million in grant funding and created the state's energy entrepreneurial ecosystem. Next slide, please. At the heart of this ecosystem are 4 innovation cluster organizations that span the state. Starting here in the south is our Southern California Energy Innovation Network that we like to call the SEEN. And we provide technical and business support and referrals to entrepreneurs across San Diego, Imperial, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. Just north of us is the LA Clean Tech Incubator that serves startups across LA, Orange, Ventura, and Santa Barbara counties. The Blue Tech Valley Incubator is run by Cal State Fresno and has responsibility for the 39 counties across California's Central Valley and agricultural belt. And completing this statewide startup support network is the Activate Incubator that is run by Cyclotron Road and covers the remaining counties in the Bay Area and Northern California. Next slide, please. Since all 7 of the student teams that are presenting in today's Explore event are from Southern California, I've provided here the key contact person, Natalie Toon, our program manager for the SEEN Innovation Cluster here in San Diego, and Gina Costi, senior pipeline manager at the LA Clean Tech Incubator in Los Angeles. For those teams that are seriously working towards commercializing your chosen breakthrough energy innovation, I highly recommend that you make contact with your Innovation Cluster Hub and submit an application to get into their intake pipeline. Next slide, please. Now, for those of you in the audience who are focused on the business side of innovation, you're all probably well aware of the potential valleys of death that all startups must navigate their way through. The first potential valley of death is securing grant, angel, or pre-seed funding to complete your first proof of concept prototype. And the second is securing the funding required to complete your minimum viable product that can be deployed in field pilots to validate your value proposition to customers. Next slide, please. So I'd like to conclude my opening remarks today by sharing with you several great resources of non-dilutive grant funding that are currently available to help you bridge any funding gaps to overcome those 2 valleys of death. First, as part of the CEC's entrepreneurial ecosystem, there's the CalSeed grant program that offers from $150,000 to $600,000 for early stage startups to complete their proof of concept demonstrations. The CEC also offers a Cal testbed program where startups in technology readiness levels 5 through 7 can get vouchers for up to $300,000 that can be applied for pro bono technical services at one of 60 testbeds across the 9 University of California campuses and Lawrence Berkeley National Labs. And they can test and de-risk your technologies. And as you can see, the CEC also tenders solicitations for later stage startups that can bridge their funding needs until they are far enough along to raise private capital with VCs or strategic investors. Next slide, please. Similarly, the Department of Energy's Advanced Research Projects Agency for Energy, called ARPA-E, tenders solicitations for their open and focused programs for early stage startups and scale-up programs for mid to later stage startups. And so it's typically some combination of DOE and CEC grants that can provide the funding that can get you to the point of spinning out from your university labs. And at that point, where you own your own technology, you'll also be eligible for the federal SBIR Small Business Innovation Research Grants. Next slide, please. Over the 6.5 years that we've been operating our SEEN Innovation Program, the 68 companies that have been accepted into our program have raised $369 million in follow-on funding and created 750 high-paying clean tech jobs. 82% of our current SEEN companies have diversity in their C-suites, and we've had 437 patents approved. And I should point out that over the first 4 years of our program, we were facing a strong headwind from the previous federal administration that actually pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord, and it rather favored coal, oil, and natural gas. Next slide, please. But now, with the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act in 2021 and the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022, we now have a tailwind of over $470 billion in federal funding to address climate change over the next decade. So I can guarantee you that the best is yet to come, and we would love for you to be a part of that. So now, with my opening remarks concluded, I'd just like to give a brief overview of how our business plan competition is going to work today. If we go to the next slide. Basically, our Southern California region is one of 15 regions that the U.S. Department of Energy has broken out the country into for this competition. And the student team whose business plan received the highest score from the judges today will win $3,000 and will advance to the national finals. And just to get everybody calibrated with the judges' instructions, winners are not determined based on the likelihood that the presenting team will implement the business plan, but rather on the quality and innovativeness of the plan itself, should a qualified team of individuals attempt to execute the business plan. There are also a number of DOE specialized technology offices that will be awarding $25,000 technology bonus prizes for the best business plan nationally that addresses their key technology needs. All 7 of our presenting teams are eligible to compete for at least one of these technology bonus prizes that the judges will also be evaluating. So I think that gives you everything you need to know about what's going to be happening today. So Anna, I'd like to turn it back over to you and we can start the team presentations.
Thank you, Marty. We will now begin our team presentations. First up, we have Wayside from Cal Lutheran and UC Santa Barbara.
All right. Cool. Can everyone hear me? Presumably. All right, let's kick this off. So hope everyone's having a great day. I'm James Werby, the founder of Wayside, and I'm excited to share something very important to me, and that's the future of clean energy. And we're all here today because we recognize this need, as Marty was talking about, for a transition in the way that the clean energy industry is growing. Next slide, please. So at Wayside, we believe that the right tools can make the future bright. And we've started to work on some of these tools, and the first tool that we're making is energy storage. Next slide. And so it's super clear that if we're going to accelerate this transition, we need some key changes to energy storage. So we're looking at the current gaps in the market, and we identified 4 core values that we want to reflect in our design philosophy. Firstly is going to be sustainability. There's loads of public concern around the components that are being used to build energy storage and the impacts on the environment if left unchecked. Secondly is going to be safety. We've all seen the photos and headlines of Tesla megapacks exploding, and this is only fueling public concern. So no one really trusts the current energy storage systems, and it's only really making the problem worse. This thing in this country called NIMBY, not in my backyard, and there is a huge issue with people not wanting energy storage near them. So we need to make energy storage technology far safer. Now, those first two objectives as foundations can move to these next two, which is going to be scale and recyclability. So it turns out that despite those previously mentioned gaps in existing products, demand is far exceeding supply, and we're looking at a 2+ year wait for most energy storage orders. So the world needs way more scale while keeping these products sustainable and safe. And lastly, we have recyclability. It's really exciting to build a great product and get it out into the market, but that phrase, get it out, applies at some point you got to get back in, and not enough thought is being given to that section of the life cycle. Next slide, please. So where does this put us? So we built a solution that builds off of these 4 objectives and even color-coded all the same so you guys can see the through line. And so we start with a more sustainable part selection. We start with the use of sodium-ion cells, which have safe and ubiquitous raw materials, and we include biodegradable coolants, so no issues around potential coolant leaks. And now with that sustainability mindset, we look to build a safer system. And we built a first of its kind immersion cooling system for battery energy storage technology, which acts as a low maintenance thermal management system and a short circuit fire suppression system. Then we wrap all of this in a patent pending unibody package that can be injection molded for a lower price, lower part count, and reducing the manufacturing time. And then all of this culminates in the fact that our unibody manufacturing technique can be easily disassembled and recycled, no extra glues, no fillings. And we see a small subsection there in the middle of the slide. If we go to the next slide, we can actually tile that into larger subsections for easy configuration of larger packs. Next slide, please. And so now let's turn to everyone's favorite market triplets, the TAM, SAM, and SOM, and to see what the current market landscape looks like for energy storage. So the current total addressable market for the battery industry is about $200 billion. Serviceable addressable market is sitting around 30, and we're looking to capture in the near term somewhere north of $250 million of market share. And this is all as of 2023. So we're looking to meet scale not just for today, but for the end of the decade when we're going to need 10 times the amount of supply. Next slide. And this is all starting today with traction that we've gotten from current and potentially future customers in all different sectors, from data centers to private grids, public grids, and industrial machinery. These lovely folks have provided some awesome feedback. They're a great bunch, and I'm really excited to help commercialize this tech and get it out in the market with these folks. Next slide, please. And so what's the actual impact of the customers? How's this helping their bottom line? So I like to point out these 3 things. We're looking at lower maintenance and longer life, which gives the entire system more time to provide value to the customer, and then also freeing up extra supply for other customers because longer cycle life. And we're also looking at the lowest price for sub 4-hour battery energy storage systems, coming in about 20 to 30% cheaper than anything else in the market today. Next slide, please. And so what are the broader systems at play? Who have we been speaking to about where this is going to fit in outside of our individual customers? And I have to call out Lacey, the California Energy Commission, and Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, who've been incredible in figuring out where these systems are going to lie in this entire pipeline. And they've really pushed this narrative of about a third of most of California's circuits are currently overloaded. And we need to include battery energy storage on day one before we start shifting to entirely EVs, before we start shifting to fully renewable power, which is only going to add volatility if we don't have that energy storage. Next slide, please. So now we're going to look at who's actually doing this. Some awesome pictures of these folks who've joined me along the way, taken on the responsibility of leading them to build this future, and new hires to come. Next slide, please. And so now we're at the peak of this mountain. We're looking over everything we just discussed today and look at what these mechanisms are going to look like in the broader society and marketplace. And so first of these is going to be new job creation. People rarely realize that business isn't done just between faceless organizations, it's done between people. And we need to empower our people, empower our communities, and empower the economy as a whole to do something critical with all of this technology. And that's going to be a very important part of what this business proposal entails. Next is going to be the market adoption. So with broader supply now, much better supply, lower costs, and longer lifespans, communities of lower income communities and communities that might not trust energy storage technology yet are going to be impacted with more sustainable grids, reliable grids, and a cleaner world as a whole. Next slide, please. And with all of that in mind, Wayside has taken on this awesome responsibility to use engineering as a tool to lead these communities and lead technologies with a product that addresses all of the market needs and the market needs of tomorrow, with promising potential to create a future that we're all proud of. And I know we can all come together and make that future exciting together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, James. Great presentation and great way to kick us off today. So we've just got 3 minutes for the Q&A. And so I think we need to kind of treat this as a lightning round. We have
Copy
four
that.
judges. So if we've got 4 judges, I'd like each judge to be able to get at least one question in. So that means kind of like 45 seconds for question and answer. And I think what I'd like to do is I'll just go across one to each judge. And if we end up with musical chairs and stop, the next one will be able to go. So let's go first. Jackie, any questions from you?
Yeah, do you have any plans specifically seeking to kind of address climate justice and social equity?
Yeah, so kind of towards the end there, when I was talking about what this is going to mean for lower income communities and the like, there's a big focus on the lower costs and the safety as means to accelerate the adoption of this in more localized areas, using this for more microgrid stuff so that communities can be then siloed off if there are broader grid issues. So again, big part of this business plan is going to be the community engagement and education, and something that I've already started to do in educating schools and whatnot on what energy storage is about.
Okay, Kristen, any question from you?
Yeah, a lot of the larger battery OEMs are starting to look at sodium ion. What differentiates your technology from those?
So sodium ion is just one component of this, as opposed to starting with just one technology. I started more with what's the broader market issue? What am I going to do to help the customer, as opposed to what can I make in a lab? So sodium ion is just one component of this. One of the bigger pieces to this is the unibody manufacturing technique and the immersion cooling, which has absolutely nothing to do with sodium ion. So yeah, sodium ion is great. Everyone who's going to be using it is going to see awesome results with it. But it's just one small piece of the pie.
Very good. Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. No questions for me.
All right, Mark.
Great.
Yeah, really 2 questions. Sodium ion looks like BYD and CATL are starting to ship cars with sodium ion. Have you looked at it? First question. The second question, have you compared your cost to the Lazard levelized cost of storage? So if you could address those 2 questions, I can remind you if you need a refresh.
Yeah, so I was looking at what BYD is doing with sodium ion cells in EVs. I mean, they're doing some awesome stuff, but some of the partners that I have here domestically, mainly Natron Energy, I've been a lot more impressed with their chemistry and their manufacturing and the fact that it is all domestic. And then in terms of you were talking about the overall cost of this in the long term, right?
Yeah, the numbers seem high for a long-term basis. Okay, right now. So.
Okay, yeah. So I think with the improved safety and the just the whole stack of improved feature set, we're going to see costs drive down significantly, especially as we reach kind of the peak of demand here towards the end of the decade. And I'm confident that we're going to be very competitive in the sub 4-hour space, and then it's going to make way for other product lines that we're working on in the 4-hour, 8-hour plus duration.
Excellent. Thank you, James. And with that,
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
I'll turn it back to Anna.
Thank you, Wayside and the judges. Now we will move on to a team from UC San Diego and CSU San Marcos Verde Biosciences.
Hello. Thank you. I'm Gary Tyree, representing Verde Biosciences. Today, I'll be talking about improving algae to energize the world. Next slide, please. First, a little bit of background. Algae-based biofuels are the most comprehensive solution to global energy demands and global warming. Their only current limitation is their efficiency. Producing algae-based biofuels is a time and resource-intensive process, making biofuels more expensive to the consumer, and thus not broadly adopted. To make algae-based biofuels competitive with petroleum oils, they need to be 2 to 3 times as efficient as they currently are in the manufacturing site. A 100 to 200% increase in yield is a huge feat of engineering, but current genome editing technology can be used to make it happen. Next slide, please. We've begun research on 3 prospective changes to an existing strain of algae's genome that could theoretically increase yield dramatically. The first is to re-engineer the photosynthetic proteins of the chlorophyll. The second is to optimize the output of algae oils through metabolic and protein engineering, which we can also partner with the Department of Energy National Lab to develop, the octane booster. And the third is to attempt to incorporate features from other oil-producing cells into an algae strain, all of which will target unique genes and protein improvements for clearly defined IP. Next slide, please. As discussed, the primary goal is to increase the yield of algae biofuels. Reducing their costs will make them a viable improvement to current petroleum products. The total gasoline market globally is estimated to be $100 billion. Algae biofuels actually have a slightly different market currently because they're used mostly in biodiesel fuels, but algae biofuels have a current annual global market of $5 billion and are growing faster than gasoline is, thankfully. They also have the opportunity to explode in growth once more promising research results occur. Next slide, please. It's nice to dream big about a global market, but it's more important to stay grounded. Crude oil and gasoline are much more expensive in Europe than other continents on average. There might be some outlier markets like California in the US, but our state's average price is only $4.66 per gallon currently. The US average is even lower at $3.75 per gallon. Since the cost of our product is our bottleneck to success, our first target market should be Europe, and meeting their price per volume is a key goal for our product becoming profitable. Next slide, please. So here we can see the total EU import of petroleum, not just gasoline anymore. This is our target market, $36.5 billion annually. Next slide, please. So our goal is to match the average EU prices of petroleum products like petrol. It's difficult to pinpoint an exact number because prices fluctuate and tax incentive structures for biofuels in Europe are currently being changed. And we still don't know the energy content of our final blend of gasoline, so it's hard to know how the taxes will affect us. But we can say for certain that we should be slightly below this yellow line in an up-to-date graph to 2023 if we want to stay competitive in the EU market. Next slide, please. The profit margins of our improved algae biofuel are difficult to accurately calculate before R&D has concluded, but theoretical maximums of efficiency are very promising. Current top C4 grade plants, which is algae, have a photosynthetic efficiency of 5%. That leaves 95% of the solar energy making it to chlorophyll that is unabsorbed. Furthermore, refineries of current biofuels are still making ethanol by fermenting biomass and making biodiesel by transesterification of biomass. This process hasn't been updated since the 70s or even earlier. We can massively simplify these processes by optimizing the output of our algae's oil from their source, further reducing costs. Next slide, please. Our foremost value proposition is greenhouse gas reduction. Replacing fossil fuels with biofuels will offset their carbon emissions by 100%, and transportation amounts to 38% of total carbon emissions in the world. It even becomes possible to decarbonize our atmosphere and control CO2 levels if we don't use all of the oil we produce. Our company could also support environmental conservation with reduced drilling and mining in damaged ecosystems. Slowing global warming through carbon emissions can also stop widespread ecosystem decline. Grid resilience is a possible benefit since any society with sunlight and salt water can produce their own fuel, and if fuels aren't harming the environment, they can be used to power electric turbines to support power grids in a renewable fashion. And lastly, we can increase human health and safety by decreasing atmospheric pollutants. This will improve human health, especially in urbanized areas. Slowing the increase in global temperatures will also make natural disasters more predictable for disaster management. Next slide, please. The potential economic impacts include reducing energy costs for everyday consumers around the world, creating jobs in many locations in the US and Europe to start, increasing revenue for supplementary companies that can build sustainable infrastructure to support us, and reducing dependence on current fossil fuel supply chains, making energy access more equitable across the globe. Next slide, please. For our business plan, the long-term success is defined by increasing yield of algae biofuels to be widely profitable in the EU, but the short-term success is defined by acquiring non-dilutive grant funding. This funding will go towards achieving preliminary results in photosynthetic protein engineering. And even if we only achieve moderate success, like an increase in yield of 20 to 30%, our IP will be valuable to other startups in the space like Viridis or Phycobloom. Next slide, please. This is our current team. We have 3 engineers. I am a bioengineer. We have 1 biomedical engineer and 1 electrical engineer. Next slide, please. And the requirements for our initial research project are here. Costs might be able to be massively reduced by this 700K number by using facilities at UCSD, but that's not guaranteed, so I didn't want to count on it. Our first hires, besides the 3 founders, would be 1 plant geneticist and 1 metabolic engineer. With these 5 experts, we hope to have a well-rounded R&D team to progress our research quickly and efficiently and communicate our results to investors. Thank you. Next slide, please. Any questions? This is our works cited. And then any questions?
Thank you very much, Gary. We're going to do musical chairs with the judges, and I'm going to shift over one, and we're going to start with Kristen this round.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm curious about the resource requirements, what stage of development that will get you to, and what you expect to require after that to get to the next stage of commercialization.
The first stage would be our initial research project to prove feasibility of the photosynthetic proteins being improved. That would presumably increase yield by 10 to 30%. And once we've proven that, then we can continue optimizing photosynthetic proteins in the hopes of getting even more yield while starting the other research projects we have planned. So the resources would expand fairly quickly. Resource requirements would expand fairly quickly, but we have several initiatives we hope to pursue.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, Eric, any questions on this one?
Yeah, Gary, I was just curious if you've started to engage with any industry partners on this.
I have only engaged with 2 so far. At UCSD, we have the Mayfield Lab, who is coined Dr. Algae, and we also have in Texas, I believe, Mammoth Biosciences, who work on massively editing eukaryotic genomes, and so I think that'll be necessary in the long run. So I've begun talking with them.
Okay, thanks.
So only academic labs, truly.
Okay.
Great. Mark?
Yes, in terms of competitive assessment, have you looked at, for example, Sapphire Energy, which was a very famous San Diego algae to fuels play, and sort of figure out how you're different and why you're going to succeed?
Yeah, so Sapphire Energy was made by the Mayfield Lab, and they were not able to become profitable by increasing yield enough. They anticipated if they scaled up globally for their cost to be about $8 per gallon, which was not enough at the time to make them profitable. So they sold their IP and shifted focus. But I think if we engineer on the genetic and protein level, and then we increase the efficiency of the algae themselves instead of the refinement plants and the machinery around the algae, we can get better efficiency.
Excellent. And Jackie, any questions from you on this one?
No questions from me, thanks.
All right. We've got a few seconds left. Anybody have another question? Going once, going twice? Well, thank you, Gary. And we'll turn it back over to Anna with a little extra time in your pocket.
Thank you, Verde Biosciences. Next up, we have a talk from UCLA.
Great. Yep, cool. Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Cohen. I'm a graduate student in management at UCLA and a co-founder of ATOP. We're on a mission to decarbonize our grid, and we're doing so by building software to streamline the commercial solar and storage origination process. Next slide, please. Adoption of renewable energy is no longer about cost, but rather about coordination. ATOP solves for this by creating a marketplace to connect stakeholders, in turn solving critical business challenges for both sides of the marketplace. For commercial real estate owners, ATOP helps navigate the complexity of understanding what's possible across their portfolio while ensuring each project is optimized for profitability, increasing the value of the building. For commercial solar developers, ATOP affords an efficient, scalable sales pipeline, saving time and cost and expanding volume. Next slide, please. And we create this connection by first providing the vital information that industry participants typically spend significant time and capital to compile. And we do it at a fraction of the cost and at scale. Specifically, we aggregate data from public and proprietary data sources to produce detailed building information, energy consumption, production potential, and surrounding grid data to estimate and optimize the required capital outlay and net present value so that stakeholders can understand the quality of each project. We then help to facilitate the RFP process between project developers and building owners. Next slide, please. And we've already made significant progress building the data platform. To date, we've built integrations with data sources such as the LA County Assessors Database, the DOE, DOD, NREL, and many others. Next slide. Okay, so you might be asking, why solar and why commercial specifically? If you imagine that you're looking out of a plane window, you've probably noticed just how much underutilized space there actually is in our cities. There's more than 6 million commercial buildings in our building stock, yet only 1.6% have rooftop solar installed. And that translates to over 6 billion square feet of underutilized space. Next slide, please. So why such limited adoption today? Well, developers tend to approach projects in piecemeal or on a case-by-case basis. Projects are complicated and developers rely on expensive consultants up and down the process. And while there are software solutions, most of them are not tailored for this specific market, resulting in piecemeal adoption. Next slide. On top of that, as I mentioned, commercial solar projects are long and complex. There are at least 7 steps that can take upwards of 6 to 18 months, all prior to installation. Next slide. Yet the market is extremely attractive and growing. We estimate that the commercial solar market is about $3.3 billion worth on an annual basis, and the market is forecasted to grow at a 21% CAGR over the next 5 years. Next slide. And interestingly, the market for software products like ours is very nascent, and many marketplace solutions have really just focused on the residential market and very simple lead generation tools. We're really focused on the commercial building market. We envision an open marketplace that is free for building owners to incentivize participation. And our main differentiator is really providing granular and specific site level data that we can collect at scale. Next slide, please. So what gives us confidence that we're building a product that can actually work? We've spoken with more than 110 folks across the industry, namely solar developers, real estate property owners, capital providers, utilities, and more, who each stand to benefit from a platform like ATOP. Next slide. So how will we make money? Well, we are positioning EnergyTechUP as a B2B SaaS offering with a freemium model and charging solar project developers to access the platform, including data and the ability to participate in the RFP process. Now, that $75,000 number annually may come with some sticker shock, but if you go to the next slide, EnergyTechUP can save on solar's pricey success fees, which are industry standard today. Consultants who generate referrals typically charge between 3 to 15 cents per project, which equates to what might be upwards of $150K for a 1 megawatt project. Through a SaaS offering, we hope to create more predictability and upside for solar project developers. Next slide. But it's not just cost in terms of success fees. It's also the non-hardware costs, specifically sales and marketing, overhead, and logistics that add up roughly to 12% of overall project costs. And we believe that through the process automation like we've proposed with our software, we can drive down a significant portion of these costs. Next slide. In concluding with potential impact, we believe that this is a win-win for all stakeholders involved, as EnergyTechUP solves critical pain points for stakeholders throughout the value chain. For commercial solar developers, it's about finding qualified projects and driving down those non-hardware costs. For commercial building owners, EnergyTechUP helps with CapEx planning, especially now that ESG goals are a much more salient consideration. And utilities often deal with interconnection requests that include poor quality data, and we can help there too. Next slide. And finally, solar deployment has spillover effects as well. We know that demand for energy is only increasing, and we'll need to rapidly deploy more renewable energy to even get close to our net zero goals. And by offering tools that allow for being smarter and more efficient about siting projects, it increases the likelihood of more profitable projects, not to mention more volume. And finally, more volume creates more jobs, specifically for non-degree trades for installation, maintenance, and operation of these solar assets. That's what has us so excited. So next slide. We are EnergyTechUP, and I'll now open it up for questions. Thank you.
Excellent, Kevin. Great job. We'll now go back to the judges panel and shifting one more to the right. Eric, you have the honors for first question, if you'd like.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Kevin. Just going back to kind of your subscription model, are you anticipating that'll be the solar developers that are likely to subscribe, or the building owners? Maybe you could just talk a little more about that.
Yeah, that's correct. So we would like to make this offering available to solar developers who will then charge. We really want to make this free for the commercial building owner side of the market in order to facilitate their participation.
Mark.
So a question really about competition. There's a number of software packages out there that seem to overlap with what you're doing, and they all offer energy storage integration. So one, are you competitive? What's out there? And two, do you do energy storage integration?
Yes. So from a competitive standpoint, many of the tools kind of focus on some aspect of the value chain. We're really focused at the very beginning. What data can we pull forward to really help in understanding where are the best buildings to site? If you're thinking about Aurora and many of the other big design tools, design we think is really a solved for problem, but it's really about how do we identify those sites even in the beginning. And so we think we're not necessarily competitive with those tools. Storage, we're still working on, I'll admit.
Excellent. Jackie?
Yeah, kind of to Mark's point, when you talk about site level data and bringing those data forward, what sorts of data sets are you planning to incorporate? What are you hoping to provide, and how are you going to access that?
Yeah, great question. So we're thinking about everything from the building envelope and really understanding aspects of the structural integrity, roof quality that we can assess via remote imaging. And we're actually working with a third party right now to integrate with them to provide kind of roof level insights to everything inside of the building as well, helping building owners seamlessly provide images of their electrical utility rooms so that we can understand if there needs to be a new switchgear that's installed, there's space for that potentially. to also the kind of environmental or grid data as well, so we can understand aspects of the distribution level grid and whether or not a front of meter project can even be developed on this site, or if it must be all consumed by the building itself. And that actually provides us with insight too into whether or not it's even a good idea for the building owner to invest in solar as well.
Okay, great. And Kristen, any questions?
Yeah.
For Kevin?
At the beginning of the presentation, you asserted that the main challenge in solar adoption was this lack of data. Do you have any customer interviews or anything to back that up? I think there are a number of other challenges in this space.
So many challenges. We do think that data is the nexus as well. I know I'm over, sorry. But in terms of,
Okay.
I think data is crucial in really helping the commercial real estate industry, one of the most carbon intensive industries, really understand what the opportunity space is like. Nobody really understands in that space, having talked with many, many folks in that industry, how to even broach the idea of installing a solar and storage project across their entire portfolio, or which buildings within their portfolio it even makes sense for. And then on the flip side, especially the long tail of commercial solar developers, we've learned about the tools that they use, many of which really lack a lot of the data, and therefore it creates a lot of waste that contributes again to the higher costs on a per project basis.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kevin. Great job.
Thank you.
Back to you, Anna.
Thank you to the first three teams for their amazing presentations. We will now be taking a 5-minute break before continuing with the remaining 4 teams. Thank you. Hi, everyone. After that brief 5-minute intermission, I'm here to welcome you back with the current Crusaders from CSU Northridge.
Hello. Introducing current Crusaders Rapid Deployable Mobile Renewable Power Plant. Next slide, please. And next slides, please. As climate change grows and affects places like Puerto Rico negatively, we need emergency disaster relief more than ever before. Next slide, please. Here is Jose with our tech intro.
Thank you, Manny. So as Manny mentioned, with disasters happening around the world quite often, we need to have a mobile power system that could be easily deployable and maneuverable. So one of the things we wanted to incorporate was a panelable racking system that can deploy and redeploy at any moment. Next slide. This is just a quick look at what our mobile device would look like. Next slide. Next slide. And some of the things that our customers are looking into that are running into problems that we have to face and actually design is some of the overheating issues and capacity of the batteries, as well as some of the labor intensive and slow deployment of the device. To you, Manny.
In terms of market assessment, we've done some customer discovery. A study by the University of Houston showed that Texas residents were displeased with grid stability due to weather anomalies. The majority of respondents agreed that solar and wind power are the new way to go for stability purposes. In addition to that survey, we are planning to do global surveys with Schlesinger Group and McKinsey and Company, which cover the entire nation. Next slide, please. Here is a global map showcasing each region's rate of exposure. You can see that latitude is independent of natural disasters. As solar efficiencies decline with high or low latitudes, competitors fall short of being equipped properly. Our modular system is integrable with other power sources such as wind turbines, and we are not limited by low or high latitudes in terms of photovoltaic efficiency. Next slide, please. We'll have drastic improvement of the product for battery cooling cabinets that slide out of the container, dramatic cost reduction through less labor intensive procedures, and automated monitoring with micro inverters for easy technician access. We'll have market expansion with a long lifespan of a product where our product is easily deployable and packable, and it's modular, so it's easy to configure based on environmental conditions. And it won't be environmentally destructive because we have the lithium ferrophosphate batteries. Next slide, please. We want to disrupt the fossil fuel industry as well as box power and Tesla. Next slide. Our market size, our TAM is 13.4 billion. Our SAM is 2.2 billion. Our SOM is 500 million USD, and we are looking for 22.7% market share by 2030. Our product will be sold for commercial/residential use, and we will provide affordable rentals for disadvantaged communities. We have calculated a conservative estimate of $32,000 based on Box Power's price for our product and accounting for all the components, including our automated racking system. Our product will be responsible for labor reduction and maintenance cost reduction. We'll have increased lifespan due to photovoltaic panels lasting a long time and increased productivity because of the size. It should be noted that our margins depend on if we rent or sell. Renting would be based on each kilowatt hour stored onto the batteries. The charge would be less than utility costs in most places, especially places like Hawaii where electricity is costly. For selling, our product is approximate to 15.6% gross profit margins. And that is based on both our component costs as well as that of the labor. Our potential system also provides improved safety due to less labor-intensive setups, greenhouse gas reduction, and microgrid resilience. Our potential impact, next slide, please, is people who want smart grids and microgrids, so it's good for small communities. Off-grid power consumers, communities experiencing power shortages, and disadvantaged communities who want to rent the service. Next slide, please. It will create operators and maintenance technician jobs and shipment managers/workers. It will allow workers and medical volunteers to have a central base for resting due to a shelter integration. It will contribute significant job creation and employment diversity. It will reduce the dependence on foreign supply chain and critical scarce resources like coal. And it'll endure decarbonization as well as significant greenhouse reduction and other air contaminants. Next slide, please. As far as the role this will play, we'll be able to, again, reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. And next slide, please. We'll define our success by how many people we save with our emergency disaster relief service, how much carbon footprint we offset compared to that of a diesel generator, and how many new jobs are created. And we have 2 notable investors and want to secure additional funding from grants as well as venture capitalist investors. Next slide, please. Why did the power plant shut down during the hurricane, Matthew?
Why?
It was afraid of getting blown away. Our brilliant team consists of me, the CEO, Jose, the Chief Technical Officer, Matthew, the Chief Financial Officer, and our Operation and Design Manager, Hannah. And that's it. Thank you. Next slide, please.
All right. Thanks, Monty and team, for blowing us away. We'll go to the questions, and this time first question honors go to Mark Jurgensen.
Yes, thanks for your presentation. Have you looked at any of the FEMA numbers? FEMA has quite a bit of detail on their site about unit cost, deployment, current vendors.
We've based our cost on what Box Power, our competitor, is doing, as well as our innovative automated racking system, as well as all the components of our system. That's what we've based our cost on.
All right, Jackie?
I may have missed this. You cruised through the technology slides quite quickly. So you mentioned powering this with wind or solar. If you're envisioning a mobile emergency response deployment, how are you powering the system? There's not generally going to be a solar field immediately nearby or something pre-existing.
Yeah, there's portable wind turbines, and we also have a backup emergency generator just for those situations. Those are backups. I know, like in environmental conditions where it's stormy, like the ones Puerto Rico endured, we need those sorts of wind turbines or emergency generators. So we just plan to have it be modular and integrate everything into one container. And here's Matthew with more about that.
Pardon me, I just want to clarify. You're asking about solar. We're going to integrate the solar panels with the racking system, and that's what's going to make it deployable with only 1 or 2 people there. So we already have built-in solar panels that come out and go on top, but it'll be done with the use of like pulleys and automation. And make sure did I answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Kristen, question from you?
Similar to Jackie's, I'd just like to spend a minute because we basically skipped the definition slide of the product. Can you just go through what this product is?
Yeah, it's essentially a large shipping container with 2 rooms. One room will have all the bedding in the bottom, the actual solar panels, the wind turbines. And then Matthew wants
I'll
to
clarify. So what this is, it's essentially a mobile power plant. And what that means is we're gonna have a power storage system. So with these batteries, we plan on pre-charging before they go out, but they'll also be charged with solar being the primary source. Depending where we go, we may have more wind, so we'll use wind. And we'll also plan on using renewable generations such as propane or natural gases. So I can tell you more. But if you have any more questions, please feel free to email us and contact us. There's a lot of information in a quick amount of time.
All right. Anna, back to you.
Thank you, current Crusaders. Now we have Get Tech from UC San Diego.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. Anna, could you hit the next slide, please? So, hi, everyone. My name is Ben Garofalo.
My name is Smriti Suresh.
And we'll be presenting Hacking the Grid with GitTech today. Next slide, please.
In August of 2022, the California Air Resources Board passed a plan that would change the economy as we know it. It now requires that all new passenger cars and light trucks sold in the state to be electric vehicles or plug-in electric hybrids by 2035. Now, this sounds great, but it puts a huge strain on our power grid. Next slide, please. So this is the problem. Distributed energy resources, also known as DERs, like solar cells and EV charging stations, are going to be continuously added as our world transitions into a greener economy. This puts a huge strain on our power grid, which has not yet adapted to new technologies and innovations. Now, optimization and cybersecurity solutions become necessary because of the increasing interconnectivity of these smart grids. Next slide.
Okay, so let's take a look at the growing distributed energy resource and energy generation market. So in 2017, the market was valued at a total of around 25 billion. But by 2027, it's projected to be worth around $600 billion globally. And so we're hoping to tap into that. And this is fantastic because a lot of DERs being added to the grid are renewable sources, but it inevitably will place a strain on the grid, as well as create security problems with all of these interconnected devices. Next slide, please. So therefore, introducing GitTech. Next slide.
Our solution combines two novel technologies developed at NREL to provide both security and optimization of our grid. So the first part is called Speeder, also known as a streamlined platform to enable distributed energy resource grid integration. And so Speeder leverages something called network reliability modeling, which basically does detailed simulations of the transmission network to make sure everything functions properly and it can handle any contingencies that come its way. So it takes factors such as voltage stability and frequency stability, which cannot be monitored by any other modeling tools. And it also uniquely provides techno-economic analysis of these grid control technologies, giving specific details such as capital cost, operating costs, and revenue based on inputted parameters.
Okay, and the second prong of our product solution is based on module operating technology, which is a novel technology that combines a software and hardware device that basically allows secure transmission of data in between individual DERs with a source control station. And the great thing about module OT is that it has already been validated in the field in New Mexico with a New Mexico utility company. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our market assessment. Next slide. So we know that there is a growing urgency to develop a resilient and secure smart grid as the rate of DERs increases. And we also know that grid operators are always looking to save money through efficiency improvements as they add more and more of these individual nodes into the grid. But with higher connectivity leads to an increased risk of cyber attacks, which is why we believe that there's a huge market opportunity for technology that addresses these issues. Next slide. So starting out with a very small team, mainly focused on the SoCal region, we believe we can target the 65 electrical grid operators in the region. And then as we expand, we'd be able to target the serviceable addressable market of 130 providers in the state of California. And then broader picture, looking at the total available market, there are around 3,500 electric companies who connect hundreds of thousands of DERs in the United States. Next slide, please.
So who does this benefit? Well, GetTech would like to start negotiating contracts with electric companies. And these are our main customers because now energy can be monitored at a high level and cost analysis can be done to see how planning the grid can become more efficient. So what does this do for the individual themselves? Well, it saves money due to less energy waste from fossil fuels, which is great for people and global warming. It protects power systems from security threats, so individuals can get power consistently and safely, and the cost of energy goes way down, making it more affordable for low-income households. Next slide. So although there is nothing quite like GetTech on the market, here's a few of the current solutions that we have. So Siemens Energy, SmartWires, and NewGrid are 3 solutions that we found. And these are all solutions that aim to tackle transmission line problems and help utility companies just like GetTech. However, they don't have the flexibility, focus on cybersecurity, and the mission for clean and equitable energy that GetTech does. So there's nothing quite like GetTech on the market. Next slide.
Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about our economics and feasibility. So next slide, please. Okay, so starting off with our value proposition, in short, we're basically offering increased grid security and modeling efficiency for the future, which means lowered risk and reduced costs for electric companies and operators. And on top of this, our product is a green investment for them because with our modeling software, we'll be able to more easily support renewable energy DER integration into the grid. And so, which leads to our business model, where we were thinking of selling each module OT hardware unit at $21 per unit. And each DER that is added to the grid requires 2 units to operate. And then we would be getting an annual recurring revenue of around $500,000 a year based on offering our modeling and security software to these large electric operators. Next slide, please.
Sorry. Simple yet effective, inexpensive and scalable, GetTech is a tiny solution with a large-scale impact. With its innovative technology and unique business model, not only will our power grid become more flexible, but it will change the way we use energy. With an increasing demand for a product like GetTech, as the amount of DERs increases, this product has the potential to save billions of dollars, substantially reduce the amount of fossil fuels burned, and create a greener future for not only us, but our future generation. With your help, we hope we can turn this vision into a reality. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Smithry and Ben. We're back to our lightning rounds of questions, and we're back to Jackie with our first question.
Hey, just one question from me. The unit cost, this $21 per unit, have you given thought to sort of the installation costs? My understanding is you need to go out and actually install those units on each individual asset. How do you envision that working, and how have you kind of baked that cost into your value proposition?
Yeah, so with the hardware costs and the software costs, we were thinking of baking installation, maintenance, and support, like software support, into that package deal and contract with the company. So it would be part of the annual contract.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Over to Kristen.
Yeah, the hardest thing with grid enhancing technologies is figuring out who's going to pay for it, because it's a very distributed benefit. So have you had much customer engagement with your potential customers to get a sense of whether and what they're willing to pay for it?
Yeah, so as we kind of mentioned in the previous few slides, Module OT has gone through some testing with customers in New Mexico, and they've had a very positive reaction to Module OT. GetTech is a little different because it combines Module OT plus the speeder software. And so we believe that since we're offering both of these combined solutions, it'll perhaps be an even better investment for those potential customers, as we've seen.
All right. Eric.
Yeah, I think my question is kind of similar to Kristen's. I mean, utilities are a pretty tough market segment to get into. They're pretty slow to adopt it. Just curious if you looked at other potential customers besides the utility that might be a little bit easier to sell this to initially.
Currently, our goal was to target utility companies just because that's what we were familiar with. But we are always open to acquiring more customers and negotiating more deals with a broader base of customers.
All right, and Mark?
Yeah, sort of the same question. Have you looked at potential deployment partners like Siemens, Johnson Controls? And you may also want to talk to the exec running Santa Gas Electric's DER program, which is Brad Mance, or Lee Corvat or Josh Gerber, who ran the CTO office in the same issue. So they are important people for you to talk to sooner than later.
Yeah, we did reach out to San Diego Gas and Electric, but we didn't really get a response. So we definitely could use that conversation to help us out.
Excellent, thank you. Anna, back to you and our next team.
Thank you. Up next, we have Caltech Sequester. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. We are the Caltech Sequester team, and I will be talking about our $30 per ton carbon capture technology. Next slide, please. I'm Ricardo, a mechanical engineering PhD student, presenting on behalf of the rest of the team. Next slide, please. In the US, point sources like power plants, refineries, other types of material production facilities emit about 45% of the annual carbon emissions. Next slide, please. The carbon emission prices, which represent the cost of damages done by emissions, have been rising, which pressures companies to focus on decarbonizing. Next slide, please. Our carbon capture technology utilizes a metal carbonate bicarbonate regeneration system in which the sorbents capture carbon from the flue gas that's emitted from these facilities. We take advantage of that high temperature from the flue gas to regenerate our material, allowing for its reusability. We then purify and store the CO2 for transportation. And what makes our process cheaper is that we use a low cost and easily available sorbent for our reactor. Right now we're working with calcium carbonate, which is relatively obtainable and it's very cheap. Next slide, please. Compared to current technology, ours provides a cheaper alternative. For example, a direct air capture is more costly and smaller in scale, and the current industry standard, amine scrubbing, has a high heat capacity, which leads to a larger energy consumption, and is also corrosive, which requires expensive components, therefore increasing things like the CapEx. Another example is pressure swing adsorption. This requires the removal of the humidity from the flue gas. However, with our technology, we actually take advantage of that humidity in our reaction system. Next slide, please. Now comparing with the best incumbent, which is amine scrubbing, our cost of goods and services is cheaper due to our capture and purification system. Next slide, please. Our cost of capture would be at $30 per ton of CO2, where we could then sell our services for $40 per ton of CO2. And our client would also receive that 45Q tax credit, which is essentially a tax credit given to them for $45 per ton of CO2 that they capture. Next slide, please. Using the previous data that I showed, with the US having about 3,600 point source facilities, combined, they emit almost 2.2 billion metric tons of CO2 annually. Our total available market is around $87 billion per year. And if we just focus on the LA County and we choose 8 different refineries that are here, these refineries are some of the largest emitters of CO2, and we have an obtainable market of about $480 million per year, or on average $6 million per year per facility. Next slide, please. Our current timeline consists of refining and optimizing our carbon capture technology through lab testing, and eventually expanding beyond with a large-scale prototype, a pilot plant, a demo plant, and we also want to eventually commercialize and license our technology by around 2027. Next slide, please. By 2030, the US aims to reduce 35 to 40% of the yearly emissions. And with the fact that less than 1% of CO2 is captured in the US, this indicates the need for newer and innovative and cheaper carbon capture technology. With our lower capture costs and the 45Q tax credit, this incentivizes companies to adopt this technology and also helps meet those goals that the US has set, while also creating new jobs. Next slide, please. I'd also like to give a quick thanks to the professors and researchers that have helped us with this project. Next slide, please. I now open the floor to any questions.
Thank you, Ricardo. That was excellent. Very interesting technology you've got there. Kristen, anything you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I wanted to understand, the claim at the beginning was $30 a ton, and then if I understood your slide correctly with the services, it's actually $70 a ton. Can you clarify?
Yes. I think, let me pull up that slide on my end. You're referring to where I talked about the operational costs, correct?
Where you talked about what you were offering, and it looks like it's for the customer, it's $70 a ton.
Oh, so we're offering $40 per ton for the customer, and then I think on the slide that you're talking about, that's the costs after we include everything like the purification, transportation, and all of that, which is essentially the same throughout. The rest of the technologies are specifically our capture system is what decreases it to around $30 per hour. $30 per ton. Or yeah.
Okay. Eric, anything from you?
Yeah, no questions for me, thanks.
Okay. Mark.
Could you cover again the deployment timeline? When would you do the pilot? And again, when would you be commercial?
Yes, of course. So right now we're working on the lab testing, and we want to aim for getting our first pilot plant at the end of 2024, hopefully 2025. And of course, after that, we want to focus on getting our first commercial demo plant, and then after that, getting more commercial plants and licensing as well.
Okay. Jackie, any?
No questions from me, thanks.
No questions there. Okay, we've got a little time left. Anybody else have another question?
Yeah, I do. I'd love to understand the cost analysis you did to validate that you'd be able to charge so much less than other technologies on the market.
Yes. So the analysis we did, we used a program called Aspen to kind of confirm that the cost would be much lower than the other incumbents. But the main thing for ours is that it's the way we run our system is that it requires less energy, specifically, to maintain those temperatures. That's something that the other processes, they require that higher energy consumption, which means higher costs. And also our material that we're using is significantly cheaper than the other ones, which all lead to that larger reduction in cost.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo.
All right, thank you so much.
And Anna, why don't you introduce us to our final team and bring us home?
Yeah, thank you so much, Caltech Sequester. Our last group is low temperature hydrothermal synthesis from UC San Diego.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Today we'll be presenting on the low temperature hydrothermal synthesis. Next slide, please. Our team from UCSD introduced, next slide, please. Our team from UCSD, including myself, Kelvin, Harrison, and Pahan. Next slide, please. Before we get started, we want to take a moment to thank our advisor, Dr. Jokers, Ethan, and Daisy. Next slide, please. Lithium-ion batteries are revolutionizing energy storage across industry with their energy density across volume and weights. Next slide, please. As a result, we project the exponential growth of LIB market, primarily driven by the EVs and consumer electronics, such as solar power storage systems. Next slide, please. Lithium and cobalt scarcity are expected to hold back the lithium growth since their demands extremely exceed supply in the future. This limits the LIB adoption because there are simply not enough raw material to support current projected level of LIB growth. Next slide, please. To meet the demand for the materials, LIB recycling is a fast-growing market that recovers metals from the spent LIBs. However, currently only like 5% of the battery are being recycled. So there's a tons of room of LIB recycling to support the growth of the LIB market. Next slide, please. There is a particular large potential for nickel magnesium cobalt battery, or NCNs, which are a type of LIBs. NCNs are going to dominate the LIB market because of their adoptions in EV due to its lower price and high energy density. But again, since the scarcity of cobalt, this is the best time to work on the NCN recycling to recover as much as possible. Next slide, please.
The following data is obtained from the DOE National Lab IP licensing portal. The technique is pattern disclosure, and compared to traditional low temperature hydrothermal synthesis, where there's low lithium recovery efficiency, undesirable structural changes, time-consuming procedure, and emits serious pollution with harmful snowball effects, our method performs like the original cell, higher economic incentives, lowers environmental impact, saves costs, and labor chain length. In addition to all of this, we operate at a much lower temperature and pressure, 100 degrees Celsius as compared to 200 degrees Celsius, and 1 bar compared to 25 bar. And this is very important because it helps us scale a plant much easier, and it's also a much safer process. Next slide, please. Based on the Everbat model from the Argonne National Lab, we found that pyrometallurgical and hydrometallurgical has profits of $2.16 and $3.07 respectively per 1 kg spent of NCM cells, which is far lower than our low temperature hydrothermal synthesis process, which has profits of $4.85. The total process cost of our process is also much cheaper as we operate at 100 degrees Celsius, which has a total process cost of $2.07 as compared to $2.25 for operating temperature of 220 degrees, saving us an estimated of 18 cents per kg of spent cells. Our TAM estimate for 2028 is 25 billion. Our SAM estimate is 2.5 billion, and our SOM estimated is 625 million. Next slide, please.
So who will benefit? Both commercial end users and residential end users alike will benefit through recycling LIBs using our method. Like what we said before in the previous slide, our method is cheaper than traditional methods, meaning big companies like Tesla and Apple will be able to pay less for batteries and ores. This would later on correlate to cheaper costs for EVs and electronics, thus benefiting residential users. Next slide, please. Currently, China and Europe are holding the lead in the current LIB recycling capacity, with China at 188,000 tons per year and Europe at 106,100 tons per year, meaning more than 2/3 of the recycling capacity is conducted in East Asia, and 90% of recycling is concentrated in East Asia and Europe, while other regions like North America are severely lagging behind. Due to the low capacities in some regions and the day-by-day growing demand for lithium, there are many new facilities being planned. With the addition of these new facilities and our recycling method, we can reduce our reliance on foreign countries like China for lithium and batteries due to our process being capable of processing lithium more efficiently when compared to pyro and hydrometallurgy, which is usually used in other regions. Next slide, please. Recycling facilities are just on the verge of growing and will continue to grow, which will create a wide variety of job opportunities, even to those without degrees. So many of the individuals who lose their jobs from the clean energy transition will be capable of finding a job. For example, we're going to need many construction workers to help with building all of these facilities. All in all, we'll produce many jobs while being able to decarbonize supply chains. Next slide, please. So the impact of recycling LIBs. Through this, we're capable of lowering the reliance on foreign supplies such as cobalt. If we start now, by the time we reach 2030, we could save up to $3.6 billion in cost savings for the EV and stationary storage sector. Additionally, cobalt mining depends on child labor and severe working conditions. Also, through recycling LIBs, we can reduce the risk of fires at recycling facilities and landfills, which can guarantee worker safety and help disadvantaged and marginalized communities who may live nearby landfill sites. Plus, it can help save millions of dollars in property damage. Finally, by recycling LIBs, we can create a secure and resilient supply chain of batteries to help support the grid. This is very helpful due to the fact that LIBs are capable of providing backup power during emergencies and disturbances, which may help facilities such as hospitals and emergency services to operate. This can help improve public safety. Next slide, please.
Our innovation holds immense improvements from what we use now. We observed through the Everband model that China's main method of recycling, hydrometallurgy, uses 15 times the amount of energy than our method. Not only that, but our method only creates a fourth of the greenhouse gases as the other processes. Through this, our innovation makes a massive leap forwards toward the green, sustainable, and profitable future. Next slide. We plan to capitalize on this market gap as soon as possible. For the rest of 2023, we seek to gather the funding, grants, and investors necessary and launch a pilot plant in 2024. We have faith in this because due to our low temperature and pressure of the procedure, the initial cost of building a facility is considerably lower than a conventional battery recycling facility. In addition, all the materials we need are green and easily sourced. In summary, we believe we can put the US on top of the market once again. Thank you. Any questions?
Excellent, Pawan and team. Super job there. And so we'll go to our last Q&A session here, starting out with Eric.
Yeah, just questioning, there's these competing uses for these spent batteries, including kind of the second use. I wonder if you've looked at what point does it become more economical to recycle versus use these in second life applications?
So for that, we know that from our recycling process, the chemical composition possess the same electrochemical properties as the original battery, but we don't know how many times this could be repeated and achieve the same perfect result. We have faith that it could be used many times before it would have to go to just throwing away the battery.
All right, moving over to Mark.
Have you talked to Smartville, which is a UCSD spin out, to see if there's any synergies with what you're doing? Their second life, but they needed to recycle at some point.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that again?
Smartville's a spin out of UCSD, people like Mike Ferry, and they're doing second life. There may be a synergy of what you're doing. Have you talked to them?
No, sorry, we have not talked to them yet, but we plan to talk with them in the future and learn more about them and see what we can do and apply to our process as well and help build our company.
And you're going to learn a lot about them in about 1 minute and 22 seconds when Anthony Tong, CEO of Smartville, is our guest presenter. But for now, 2 more questions, one from Jackie and then one from Kristen.
I think mine's quick. I just wanted to clarify on the reduced fire risk that you noted. Is that due to the lower temperature of your process, or what's the source of that?
Also, to the reduced fire risk. All right, so when LIBs are not recycled properly, so when they're at pre-landfilling facilities, it can cause lots of major fires. For example, it's because most civilians don't recycle LIBs properly. They just throw them away in the wrong places. And because of that, it could result in these huge fires. And by recycling them properly, it could reduce these.
Thanks.
And Kristen?
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about specifically who your customers are and whether you've had discussions with customers about their willingness to pay something that is equivalent to your costs of production plus margin?
Yes, for companies, we plan to work with companies that use LIBs inside California for right now, such as LG, Tesla, and Panasonic. We have emailed their sales associate, but none of them has gone back to us yet, but it's in the works.
All right. That brings us to the close of your Q&A, as well as the close of our 7 presentations today. To both the presenters and the audience, while We had originally targeted to have 12 companies presenting today. A few of them fell out for various reasons, but I am delighted to be able to say what we lacked in quantity, we certainly made up for in quality. These were 7 fantastic presentations. You hit all of the key criteria and evaluation statements that the judges are going to need to be evaluating on. So you've given the judges and me a very tough job that we're going to take off to right now. So I'll turn it back to Anna to introduce our guest speaker, who is going to give you an overview while we do our judges' deliberation. So we'll be back to you shortly.
Hello again. Thank you to all 7 teams who participated today. All presentations were very interesting and representative of the hard work that you put into it. As Marty is now off facilitating the judges' final deliberations, I am delighted to have the opportunity to introduce our special guest presenter, Dr. Anthony Tong from UCSD-born startup Smartville. Consistent with the theme for today's event, which is accelerating the clean energy transition from campus to commerce, perhaps it shouldn't be a surprise that Smartville is one of the companies in Marty Truck's CEC, Scene Innovation Cluster, that can provide a real-life case study of how they have leveraged virtually all of the resources that Marty has mentioned today to not only advance their technology to the point of field deployments, but they have gotten this far purely with the multiple sources of non-dilutive grant funding. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Anthony Tong, who is the CEO and co-founder of Smartville. He also serves as a research scientist at UC San Diego. At Smartville, he is developing a low-cost and scalable approach for repurposing and recycling of electric vehicle battery packs. Welcome, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks, Anna, and thanks, Marty. Hello, fellow entrepreneurs from DOE ETOP. The event need a filler, so I'm here. But I think I'm more than happy to share some of our experiences as like maybe a year or two ahead of procedures and entrepreneur experiences, and maybe can share some of the lesson learned and opportunities with the team here. So what Smartville do is we develop a large-scale energy storage using repurposed EV batteries. So our value proposition comes down to simple questions about what we do with EV batteries. And the next slide. So as some of the presenters touch upon today, we're looking at a major revolutions in how humanity use electricity, both in transportations and the utility grid as well. We see to the tune of 24 million annual EV sales reaching as early as 2030s. There are a lot of cars and also a lot of battery packs. Some of the pre-existing approach for handling waste streams of battery pack, including recycling or some of the upcycle or downcycle recycling method, but basically utilizing their material values through different approaches. Next slide, please. What Smartville is looking at is to optimize the lifetime value of batteries by somehow injecting a tiered structure of battery repurposing, then recycling, trying to extract the cycle life values or remaining cycle life values of EV battery pack before they can be aggregated and recycled altogether. Next one. So when we're looking at the opportunities in the energy storage market, this is what Smartville's product eventually we're targeting at. We see a tremendous growth for the next 10 years as well. Over 20% carried over average growth with a market size about 200 billion global and about 100 billion in the US. And we are targeting about addressable market for second use battery because of the structures and some of the system size we are targeting at with a market capacity about 20 billions. And our target is to capture about 20% of that addressable market. Next one. So Smartville's approach is to develop a distributed manufacturing paradigm we call it Hub, which we were building in a localized fashion to process waste stream of EV batteries. And we sorting and processing them by establishing data-backed data-backed performance qualifications and integrate them into a building block energy storage product called MOAB. Accidentally, we can also providing synergetic benefit by sorting and qualifying or dequalifying batteries that are not suitable for second use and providing those waste streams to recycling. We are innovating in a couple of processes to improve the performance qualities of those batteries in second use and also efficiencies in sorting through the batteries feeding to recycling. Next one. So our business model are based on a simple promises. By a collective processing procedures, we want to extract about $20 per kilowatt hour average profit through battery repurposing and eventually recyclings. Compared to a recycling only models, we're trying to achieve about a 10x return. With the next 5 years, we are targeting to reach about 100 megawatt hours annual capacity of energy storage product manufacturing, and we're reaching about 30 million in annual revenue. Yes, next one. So we also see tremendous sustainability benefits from all aspects of what we do, trying to upcycle and utilize repurposed batteries. First of all, we're trying to bring a model that not only we work with one OEM batteries, but also work with different EV makes and models. So maximize the value that can be provided for electric vehicle manufacturers and eventually lower the cost of electric vehicle. We also trying to bring the lowest carbon footprint and the lowest most cost-effective energy storage system to the stationary market to really reduce the carbon footprint of the energy generation sectors. Finally, we can help tie the loop of battery manufacturing circular economy by providing more efficient way to logistic sorting and the repurposing those batteries. Eventually, more battery will be available for the recycling waste streams and eventually turn up in a new manufacturing in the US as well. For our communities, such business model that are focusing on localized build of infrastructure to repurposing batteries and also providing energy storage systems to our community will help address US supply chain issues, providing more clean interconnection of renewable resources and empower electrified transportation. All those will contribute to employ and train skilled local labor force as well. Next one, Anna. So today, Smartville, as Marty mentioned earlier, we achieved major milestones of a pre-commercial building block design that we have deployed in our UC San Diego Library Annex at Mira Mesa. This is about 500 kilowatt and 500 kilowatt hours of commercial pilot, and we are working through our iterations to improve and fully certify and commercialize this building block called MOAB. It's about 1/4 megawatt hours of per build with multiple EV batteries can be integrated, and it will be made in the US. Next one. Our path to market for the next year or two will be focusing on rolling out those pilot demonstration to multiple parts in the States and in California as well. We have about 2 fully contracted scaled up demonstrations. We're building energy storage system both in grid interfacing and for commercial use as well. We are securing some of the battery supply chain issue by working with multiple OEMs to negotiate master supply agreements. We also working with certification entities like UL to looking into procedures and the manufacturing paradigms to qualify and manufacture the electric vehicle batteries. Next one. So timeline-wise, we are looking at today is 2023. We have go through initial business development and the initial R&D funding from DOE APAE to UC San Diego. We spin off the company at around 2019, supported by initial CEC grant for our pilot demonstrations. Today, we are at iteration 2 our MOAB product and working towards certification fire engineering, and business development. As I mentioned, we have a couple of pilot scheduled, one major one being we're going to deploy over 3 MWh of energy storage system in Central California, partnering with a peaker energy generation plant. And by 2025, we're targeting a manufacturing scale up at about 100 MWh per year. Next one. So with some of our fortune and the success so far, and yet a lot of work to do ahead of us, I want to specifically thank our great communities and ecosystems in California and in UC San Diego. So throughout the year, me personally as a research staff at UC San Diego, we have originated our research through grant fundings and the research initiatives at Center for Energy Research. We have also worked with a technology to market use cases with a very talented group at Rady School of Management. We also be able to work with our facility group to cement our first pilot demonstration with UC San Diego Library Annex. Next one. Also, last but not least, we have been early on a part of the Southern California energy innovation ecosystem that is Cleantech San Diego's, and they provide a range of support from supporting funding opportunities through states and the federal, and introduce us to a lot of the business development groups that help us doing early business pencilings, business models, even pitch development. It also connected us with our local industries, research entities as well. For example, we are expertise in building energy storage systems, but there are a lot more to that by developing actual systems that integrating power interfaces, power electronics, constructions, and designs. So Cleantech San Diego was introduced us to some of the site hosts such as UC San Diego, City of Chula Vista, also some of the local equipment manufacturers such as EPC Power and Rhombus. All those great partners have championed us in a lot of the proposal writings and also collaborated with us to develop pilot demonstrations and further along our business model as well. So great resources locally. And if quick words to our fellow teams, if you are looking at a lot of the resources, my suggestion is that for your own business model and the technology pathways, do subtractions. The less you can focusing on and the more niche you can focusing on your core value, the better. And a lot of the resources that besides that, you can reach out to the communities and a lot of the supporting group, including the one you are in right now, that can help you champion through some of the challenges. Next one. So yeah, my contact info is here, and I hope everybody have a great experience with this DOE event, and good luck with you scaling up your technology. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for your insight through the Smartville case study. I would like to turn it back to Marty now for the announcement of winners at this time.
If Marty and the judges need more time, I'm open to questions.
Hi, Anna. This is Zach with Cleantech San Diego. We just need 2 more minutes to finish up our judges' deliberation. Hi, Anthony. Good to see you.
Very tight. It's very tight scoring, so we're out in the tiebreaker. Give us 2 more minutes. Thank you.
No worries. If anybody has any questions for Anthony, that would be a good time to ask them.
Ben,
go ahead, Ben.
Hi, Anthony, were you a student at UC San Diego? Is that right?
No, I was a graduate researcher at UC Davis about now 10 years ago. I was a research staff at UC San Diego for about 5 years, 7 years, yes.
Okay, and so through your research, is that how you like started getting interested in this Smartville company and its technology, or how did that start?
Yeah, so a lot of the startup, including myself and some of the funders in the clean tech space are longtime technology developers. I have always held interest in sustainabilities. I think this is a lot of reason not for market capitalization, right? It's a hard path in clean tech, but also in sustainability goals and your passions. I worked on one of the first pilot demonstration for second use at UC Davis about 10 years ago. We did like a repurposed at that time plug-in Prius prismatic battery reassembling into stationary storage for residential. And we have done a couple of demos since then, one of them being in UC San Diego working with BMWs. So that concept is a long time going, but I think it's always a timing and also your own technology and the readiness. So I think I started the company about 2019, is really looking into, I think the timing is right. The California EV adoption is going up, and we already see the sourcing and repurposing issues perking up. So I think that's time for me to give it a try.
Wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the judges are back. Anthony, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your experience and your wisdom with the group. Clearly, one of our premier examples of campus to commerce, and that's why we asked Anthony to come back and share that with you today. So as you can see, it took us longer than we were expecting to make the decisions on the awards. Great presentations. And so as I mentioned, when I kicked off the business plan presentations at the beginning of today's competition, in addition to selecting a Southern California regional winner who will move on to the national finals, 9 of the DOE's focused technology offices are offering special $25,000 technology bonus prizes to one team from all of the national entrants that has the business plan that best addresses their most key strategic need. And so our 7 teams actually qualified in 4 of those 9 special technology bonus prize categories. So I'd like to announce first those winners of the technology bonus prizes. So they will be semifinalists, and their presentations will be viewed amongst all of the national winners of the regional, all the regional winners across the nation. And then that specific Office of Technology will be advising those people. So we actually have 4 of, well, there's 3 of those plus the first one, which is this year for the first time, the Office of Technology Transitions National Lab Developed Technology Bonus Challenge. So this is for a team that's actually gone into the DOE's Office of Technology Transitions patent portfolio and identified a technology that they're looking to leverage in driving their business. And our Southern California region semifinalist for that Office of Technology's National Lab Developed Technology is the Low Temperature Hydrothermal Synthesis program from UC San Diego with Pahan Jayatilake as the team leader. So congratulations on that first technology bonus award. For the Solar Energy Technologies Office Solar Technology Bonus Challenge, our Southern California region semifinalists will be Team Atop with their platform for streamlining solar project origination phase. They're from UCLA, and Kevin Cohn was today's guest presenter, and their team leader, Kyle Brower, is also part of that team there. For the Office of Electricity Grid Enhancing Technologies bonus challenge, the Southern California region semifinalists will be GetTech with their Speed DER grid optimization platform. And you heard from Smithry and Ben today. And then finally, for our Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management, the Carbon Dioxide Removal Bonus Challenge. The winner there was Sequester from Caltech with Ricardo Hernandez, the team leader and presenter today. So those are our 4 technology bonus awards. And now it's time to get to our grand prize Southern California regional winner of the Explore event. And there, our winner of the Southern California second annual DOE Energy Tech University Prize is from UC San Diego, the Low Temperature Hydrothermal Synthesis Program. Again, Pahan Jayatalake, sorry, Pahan. And so congratulations to the UCSD team for winning the Southern California event. If we can just go to the next slide, please. Let me tell you what happens from here. So our 4 technology bonus semifinalists, they'll need to keep an eye out for a communication from their respective DOE technology department to find out who the national winners are for each of those 9 $25,000 technology bonus prizes. And the DOE in the official rules document said that they are targeting that communication by March 7th. And for our winning team from UCSD, you can expect to be contacted by the DOE to be introduced to subject matter experts in your field who will provide mentorship and free access to the Office Technology Transfer's Energy I-Core curriculum to help you refine your presentation for the April 3rd final pitch competition in Austin, Texas, where the national first prize winner will be awarded $50,000, second place $30,000, and national third place winner $20,000. So good luck to all of our Southern California region teams. And Anna, I'll throw the mic back to you.
Thank you, Marty. Congratulations to our winners, as well as all teams who have presented today. I'd like to thank our judges, Mark Jurgensen, Jackie Hanberg, Kristen Griffin, and Eric Stokes again. Additionally, special thanks for Marty Turok, Zach Dobbin, Natalie Toon, and the Southern California Energy Innovation Network. I'd like to also thank our sponsors listed here, as well as our partners, both our hosting partners as well as our supporting partners. Again, I'd like to recognize our teams who presented here today from these participating universities. We are glad you are able to join us today. Thank you to everyone for coming and viewing our webinar today. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.